accuse me to immigration.
You are a fraud. That's what you are. You're a goddamn fraud.
My men were losers.
Oh my God, who has his hand next?
It started with one sentence that silenced an entire table. Elizabeth leaned forward, her voice low but sharp, and said something in Yara's own language that made every face freeze. No one spoke for 3 full seconds. Then the cameras started moving. The producers whispered, and TLC realized they had caught the moment that would define Season 9, Episode 18, I'm Sabrina, and you're watching TLC Drama Live, where we don't look away when love turns ugly. If you're new here, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments whose side you're on after this one. Because what happened next will make you question who was the real villain at that dinner. The night was supposed to be peaceful. A casual post-shoot dinner to wrap the season, some wine, some laughs, and the illusion that these couples had finally made peace. But under that dim light sat months of resentment ready to explode. Elizabeth arrived confident, Andre by her side, both acting like they owned the night. Yara came in smiling, but her eyes were alert. She knew one wrong word could turn polite chatter into a headline. From the first minute, the energy was off. Andre started with his usual digs, joking about people being too sensitive. It landed like a spark on dry wood. When Yara tried to keep things light, talking about travel and family, he cut in with, "Some people spend more time on Instagram than with their husbands." Elizabeth laughed, but it wasn't friendly. It was the laugh of someone who came to fight wearing a smile. Yara froze, then said softly, "You and Andre always act perfect." Elizabeth leaned closer. "At least we're real." Every camera tilted. Every fork stopped midair. You could feel the air tighten. And then came the line, the one that crossed from petty shade into humiliation, a slur in Yara's own language, whispered but caught by the mic. The kind of word that slices pride like glass. The room broke apart instantly. Joy stood up, producers shouted for calm, and Andre pulled Elizabeth back. But Yara wasn't backing down. Her face went pale first, then red. "You insulted me in my language," she yelled, trembling. "You knew what that meant." Elizabeth tried to defend herself, but guilt was written all over her face. She looked around for backup and found none. Even Andre looked unsure, but what viewers didn't see was the off-camera move that changed everything. After production cut the scene, Yara locked herself in her dressing room and refused to continue filming. Elizabeth broke down backstage, muttering she didn't mean it that way. TLC's legal team stepped in immediately, deciding to mute the word in post-production. But it was too late. Translators online were already decoding the lip movement. Within hours, Reddit threads were exploding, Twitter hashtags forming, fans calling for Elizabeth's removal. The scandal became bigger than the fight itself. It wasn't just drama anymore. It was about cultural respect, about what's okay to say on television and what crosses the line. Yara's fans accused Elizabeth of racism and classism. Elizabeth's supporters said Yara provoked her. Both women became symbols of everything messy about reality TV, how personal pride gets turned into profit. Inside TLC headquarters, panic. The producers debated whether to pull the footage entirely. But someone higher up decided controversy sells, and episode 18 stayed exactly as filmed, only censored. That decision poured gasoline on the fire. The blurred sound made people more curious, not less. Everyone wanted to know the forbidden word. Clips circulated frame by frame, slowed down, analyzed like evidence in a trial. Meanwhile, the cast felt the ripple. Joy told friends he was embarrassed to be part of the scene. Andre blamed editing. But Yara's silence on social media spoke louder than any interview. She posted a single story, a close-up of her face with the caption, "Respect is not a joke." That one post hit harder than an entire reunion episode. The emotional fallout went far beyond ratings. For Yara, it was personal. She had spent years fighting the outsider label, trying to prove she belonged. And now, in one dinner scene, she was reminded she never fully would. For Elizabeth, it became a mirror she couldn't avoid. A reminder that confidence without empathy turns cruel. As the week went on, both women filmed separate confessionals. Elizabeth looked shaken, saying she'd lost control. Yara's voice cracked when she said, "In my culture, you don't say that word, not even in anger." Those lines weren't scripted. They were pain on tape. Online, fans split into camps. Team Yara flooded the comments demanding accountability, while Oct Team Liz defended the mistake as heat of the moment. The divide made episode 18 trend across platforms, which is exactly what TLC wanted. The network stayed silent, letting public outrage do the marketing. Back at that table, the fight was more than an argument. It was a cultural wound exposed on primetime TV. And once that wound opened, there was no going back. Because behind every apology was the same question lingering in every viewer's mind. If this is what happens off camera, what are we not seeing when the microphones are off? Elizabeth's reputation began to crumble. Brands paused collaborations. Podcasts avoided booking her. Meanwhile, Yara's following skyrocketed. Sympathy turned her into the unofficial voice of every woman who'd ever been talked down to. But fame through pain has its own cost, and Yara would soon find out that being right doesn't always mean being safe. By the end of the episode, the dinner ended without closure. No hugs, no resolution. Just producers whispering into walkie-talkies as the cast scattered into separate cars. But the silence in that final shot said more than any dialogue. TLC faded to black, and viewers could still hear the faint echo of Yara's voice, hurt, proud, and shaking. The story didn't end there. Because while the internet was still burning over Elizabeth's insult, another couple's private life was about to blow wide open. And this time, the cameras didn't need to chase the drama. It was already waiting in Gino's pocket, and the phone in his hand would soon destroy everything they had built. It started with the sound of a phone screen lighting up. No shouting, no music, just that small click, the kind that changes everything. Jasmine looked over her coffee mug, saw Gino glance at his phone, then flip it face down like he was hiding state secrets. And in that tiny, ordinary movement, you could feel the beginning of another heartbreak. This wasn't a dinner table argument like Yara and Elizabeth. This was something slower, heavier, the kind of silence that makes your stomach hurt before anyone says a word. The morning looked peaceful. Gino at the dining table, Jasmine in the kitchen making coffee. But she noticed the tremor in his hand when he set his phone down. Something in her broke before she even knew why. She asked once, calmly, "Why are you hiding your phone?" He smiled, said it was work email. Work email on a Sunday morning. Jasmine didn't even need to speak. Her eyes did the rest. The producers, already sensing the tension, whispered to keep the cameras rolling. When he finally handed her the phone, the air felt electric. She scrolled once, twice, then stopped. Whatever she saw made her breath hitch. The texts were long, full of heart emojis and a name she knew. Gino's ex. Messages sent while Jasmine was asleep, filled with old nicknames and late-night, "I miss your voice" confessions. She looked up at him like someone staring at a stranger. Her voice cracked. "You said you missed her?" He rubbed his temples, muttered something about not wanting to be rude. That single excuse shattered any peace left between them. The camera zoomed in on Jasmine's hands, trembling, clutching the phone like proof of betrayal. But the real betrayal wasn't the texts. It was who leaked them. Later, crew members admitted that Gino had already mentioned those messages in an interview earlier that week. He didn't know his mic was still on. The producers knew before Jasmine did. They'd been waiting to catch the moment she found out. On camera. Raw, unfiltered, real-time pain. It wasn't an ambush. It was strategy. And the heartbreak we saw wasn't accidental. It was planned exposure. Jasmine sat on the couch crying quietly, repeating, "You made me leave everything." It wasn't about cheating. It was about trust. About crossing an ocean for someone who still had his heart half in the past. For her, America wasn't freedom. It was isolation. And the one person who promised stability had turned her sacrifice into a joke. The silence between them grew louder. She told him not to touch her, not to speak. Gino kept saying it was nothing, his body language betraying every lie. No eye contact, nervous laugh, that fake calm that screams guilt. Viewers watching could feel it too. The way her breathing sped up, shallow and panicked. The way she pressed her hands to her chest like she was holding herself together. And yet, what made the scene powerful wasn't just the tears. It was how real it felt. You could see Jasmine's dignity fighting her heartbreak, trying not to give TLC another viral breakdown. But pain doesn't wait for permission. Hours later, in her confessional, she said softly, "He doesn't get it. It's not about the messages. It's about respect." Her eyes looked swollen but clear. Then she said something no one expected. "Maybe I made a mistake coming here." For the first time, Jasmine didn't sound angry. She sounded done. That's when fans started to panic. Because when Jasmine Pineda says she might leave, she usually does. Gino's confessional that followed felt hollow. He said she was overreacting, that he didn't want to be rude to his ex. He said Jasmine was insecure. But his shaky smile told the truth he wouldn't say out loud. He was lying. And everyone knew it. That night, fans dissected every frame online. Body language experts slowed clips, analyzing micro-expressions like it was a court trial. The conclusion was unanimous. Gino was guilty of emotional cheating, even if he never admitted it. Hashtags like Chiom Justice for Jasmine and You Would Green Card Gaslight started trending. But the internet's sympathy came too late. By the time the episode ended, Jasmine was already packing her suitcase. The camera followed her from the bedroom to the door. She looked exhausted, not dramatic. Her coat half-zipped, her face pale, her voice barely a whisper when she said, "I just need space." Gino asked where she was going. She said, "I don't know. Maybe the airport." And she meant it. TLC ended the segment with her sitting alone outside, under a gray Michigan sky, her breath visible in the cold, her phone still in her hand. No background music, no dramatic score, just silence. Real heartbreak doesn't need a soundtrack. That scene broke the fandom. Half blamed Gino, half said Jasmine was too emotional. But almost everyone agreed on one thing. Something inside her changed forever in that moment. She wasn't the fiery Jasmine who fought to stay. She was someone realizing maybe love had been a transaction all along. Still, there was one thing no one expected, because what started as a fight over a phone would soon spiral into something far more dangerous. Not emotional, not romantic, but legal. And when the law got involved, the cameras didn't stop rolling, because love on reality TV might end in tears. But this time, it could end in deportation. Darcy sat in front of the mirror, but it wasn't vanity this time. It was survival. The reflection staring back at her wasn't the confident, camera-ready woman fans knew. It was someone tired of fighting for love that kept slipping away. The makeup artist tried to cheer her up, but Darcy's voice cut through softly. "You can look strong all you want, but inside, you know when you're done." That single sentence felt heavier than any breakup speech, because deep down, everyone watching knew this was coming. After years of hoping, forgiving, and trying again, Darcy had reached the edge of something final. She wasn't yelling anymore. She wasn't begging. She was just quiet. And somehow, that was worse. Georgie walked in, his eyes on his phone, scrolling like nothing mattered. Darcy turned toward him, searching for the smallest sign of warmth. Nothing. He sat down across from her and said, "I don't want to talk about kids." The words hung in the air, brutal and plain. No apology, no softness. It was a statement that didn't need volume. It hit like a punch. Darcy's expression didn't change immediately. She blinked once, twice, then smiled faintly. That kind of smile people wear when they're falling apart inside, but refuse to let anyone see. She whispered, "I just needed you to say you care." But he didn't look up. And that's when viewers realized silence can be louder than screaming. TLC didn't need dramatic music this time. The heartbreak played out in real time, through small movements, her hand shaking, the way she bit her lip, the long pauses between each breath. It was the kind of pain reality TV rarely captures without manipulation. Pure, unfiltered exhaustion. Later, when she walked to the bathroom to fix her makeup, her mic was still on. You could hear her whisper, almost to herself, "I gave everything. He doesn't want me. He wants a fantasy." Fans replayed that line again and again online, because in that quiet confession, Darcy finally said what so many people never dared to admit, that love sometimes isn't rejection, it's erasure. Outside the frame, producers debated cutting the moment, afraid it was too raw, but they kept it. Because authenticity sells, even when it hurts. By the time the episode aired, fans weren't just sympathizing, they were grieving with her. Comments flooded social media. You can see the light leave her eyes. She deserved peace, not pity. Meanwhile, Georgie gave his own interview, detached, mechanical. He said he was tired of the drama, that Darcy needed to grow up. It was the kind of coldness that made even neutral viewers angry, because if Jasmine's heartbreak was betrayal, Darcy's was abandonment. The slow kind, where someone stops showing up but never leaves entirely. In her hotel room later, Darcy sat alone packing. No yelling, no cameras chasing her. Just quiet hands folding clothes that once symbolized hope. She took off her engagement ring and placed it in a small black box. The sound of the lid closing was almost like a door shutting on her past. TLC didn't add narration. They didn't need to. Her actions spoke every word her voice couldn't find, but the real story wasn't her breakup. It was what came after. Because when Darcy walked away that night, something in the franchise shifted. The audience wasn't watching another messy split. They were witnessing the emotional cost of living on camera. Years of heartbreak had become content, and now, for the first time, fans were asking if TLC had crossed the line between reality and exploitation. Online, threads popped up with titles like Protect Darcy and The Human Side of Reality TV. Psychologists weighed in, saying the pattern of humiliation had become part of her brand. Darcy wasn't just a person anymore, she was a storyline, a cycle of love, loss, and pain repackaged every season. And the scariest part? She knew it. When she finally told the producer, "Maybe I'm the problem," her voice cracked. It wasn't self-pity. It was awareness. She left that apartment before sunrise, wearing a long coat and no makeup. The cameras followed her to the car, headlights cutting through the fog. Inside, she whispered one final line that hit harder than any argument that season. "I don't need a man. I need peace." Fans froze when they heard it. A truth that wasn't just Darcy's, but every woman who'd been told love was the only ending worth fighting for. As the episode faded, you could almost feel the collective exhale. No explosions, no screaming, just silence, like the show itself was mourning her spirit. But what no one knew then was that this quiet heartbreak would only make the chaos that followed even louder. Because while Darcy closed one door, another storm was already forming in the next room. And it belonged to Jasmine. The heartbreak we'd seen wasn't the end of her story. It was only the calm before the countdown began. And when that countdown started, every second became a fight for freedom. The story picked up like a headline nobody wanted to believe. 15 days. That's all the court gave Jasmine to leave the United States. No drama, no debate, just a letter stamped with her name and a deadline. And suddenly, the woman who once fought for love on camera was now fighting for her freedom in real life. The clock started ticking quietly. Day 1, she called her lawyer. Day 2, she barely slept. By day 3, every outlet had the same breaking news. Jasmine Pineda faces deportation. For fans, it was shocking. For her, it was suffocating. Behind the scenes, Jasmine was spiraling. Friends said she stopped eating, kept rereading the court order as if staring long enough would change the words. Her messages to the production team grew shorter. No emojis, no laughter, just fear typed in lowercase. The same woman who once turned heartbreak into television gold was now terrified of losing everything. Her home, her life in America, and the love she sacrificed everything for. And where was Gino? Nowhere. Insiders say she called him right after getting the news, hoping maybe he'd offer help, or at least comfort. He allegedly told her, "You brought this on yourself." That line spread faster than the deportation notice. It wasn't just cruel, it was confirmation. Gino wasn't her lifeline anymore. He was the final crack in the glass. But the real countdown wasn't measured in days. It was in hope. Each morning she woke up and checked her phone for updates from her lawyers. Nothing. Each night she scrolled through fan messages, some supportive, some vicious. People begged her to fight. Others told her to go home. No one understood that she didn't have one anymore. By day 7, her life turned into a loop of anxiety and paperwork. Legal teams filing appeals, journalists calling for interviews, producers begging her to let cameras in. She refused. For once, Jasmine didn't want an audience. She wanted mercy. But mercy doesn't trend. Social media built her into a public spectacle. Justice for Jasmine trended on TikTok, with fans editing clips of her crying over Gino and pairing them with dramatic music. People were crying for her and cashing in on her pain at the same time. Even those who meant well kept tagging TLC, demanding a statement. The network stayed silent again. Their silence spoke louder than any defense. By day 9, panic had turned into survival. Her legal team filed for an emergency stay, hoping to delay her removal. Her lawyer said they were working around the clock. Translation, she was running out of time. She was still posting small notes to fans. "Thank you for the love. I'm staying strong." But insiders described her as breaking down between every post. Her friend said she would wake up crying, go quiet for hours, then start rehearsing what she'd say if she had to leave on camera. But what she didn't realize was that the cameras were still rolling, even when she thought they weren't. Producers had been following her through mutual contacts, documenting the emotional unraveling of her final days. They wanted her fear, her pacing, her sleepless nights, real emotion that couldn't be faked. It wasn't exploitation anymore. It was exposure. The show that once made her famous was now recording her collapse. By day 12, the situation turned desperate. Lawyers rushed to court with last-minute filings, arguing procedural error. Nothing moved fast enough. Every hour mattered. Gino's silence made everything worse. He unfollowed her on Instagram, quietly deleting photos while she begged for legal mercy. Fans noticed. They turned on him overnight. For every post defending himself, 10 more accused him of abandoning her. And maybe he did. Because when love turns into proof of guilt, even staying silent feels like betrayal. Jasmine started planning for the worst. She packed a single suitcase. Passport, clothes, court papers. She said she'd leave voluntarily if it stopped police from coming to her door. Her team told her to wait, to breathe, to believe the appeal might still save her. But the eyes on her were endless. Every message, every video, every word was being dissected by strangers who saw a story instead of a person. The pressure became unbearable. On day 14, she recorded a short clip from her apartment. Her eyes swollen, her voice trembling. "I just want to stay, please." That one video went viral across every platform. It wasn't polished. It wasn't staged. It was a cry that felt human in a world built on performance. By day 15, everything came down to one hearing. Her lawyers submitted her final appeal. The judge agreed to review the evidence overnight. For the first time in 2 weeks, Jasmine slept, not because she felt safe, but because she was too tired to stay awake. And the next morning, the impossible happened. A short-term extension. She wasn't free, but she wasn't gone either. The court granted her a temporary stay, giving her a few more weeks to prepare her case. The decision hit social media like a shockwave. Fans cried. TLC scrambled to confirm. And Jasmine exhaled for the first time in 15 days. But the extension wasn't freedom. It was a warning, because the law doesn't forgive easily, and neither does the audience. The same cameras that once followed her love story would now follow her court dates. Her tears had become her trademark. Her pain had become her paycheck. And even though she'd survived this round, the countdown hadn't really stopped. It had only reset. As news broke, fans realized this wasn't a TV plotline anymore. It was a real woman balancing fear, fame, and paperwork, trying to stay in a country that once promised her love and delivered judgment instead. Behind the headlines, the theme was clear. Reality TV doesn't end when the cameras turn off. Sometimes, it starts there. By the end of episode 18, Jasmine sat on her couch, staring at her phone again. Not scrolling, not crying. Just quiet, waiting. The same way she did the morning Gino betrayed her. The circle was complete, and the lesson was brutal. Love made her famous, but it also made her vulnerable to every system. Emotional, legal, and public. Her story became a mirror for everyone watching. Because what was happening to Jasmine wasn't only about law. It was about the cost of being real in a world that rewards pain more than peace. And as the credits rolled, viewers realized the countdown wasn't hers alone. It was every person who's ever felt trapped between truth and image, love and survival, camera and reality. Because in this franchise, no ending is final, only postponed. When the noise finally stopped, the silence felt heavier than the chaos. 3 couples, 3 stories, 1 truth. Love on camera is never simple. Elizabeth and Yara showed us how pride can turn culture into a weapon. Jasmine and Gino showed us how betrayal hides in plain sight. And Darcy and Georgie reminded us that sometimes the softest heartbreaks are the hardest to recover from. Each of them came on this show to prove something. That love can survive distance. That fame doesn't destroy loyalty. That second chances mean something. But what the cameras caught instead was how fragile people become when their emotions are turned into entertainment. The fights, the tears, the breakdowns, they were real, but so were the consequences. Yara had to rebuild her reputation after one insult became global controversy. Darcy had to find peace after years of being edited into heartbreak. And Jasmine, she had to face the system itself, with the world watching her count down the days. It's strange how pain becomes performance without anyone planning it. Fans say they want authenticity, but authenticity hurts. Because real emotions don't always come with clean endings or pretty edits. They come with sleepless nights, legal threats, and a loneliness that no follower count can fix. The irony is that TLC didn't create these emotions. It just amplified them. And every time the network airs another happily ever after, the audience leans in, half for love, half for blood. Because we all know how it ends. The ring might shine, but it always comes off in the end. For Jasmine, the countdown may have paused, but her life hasn't returned to normal. Every new post, every rumor, every statement is being picked apart by people who think they know her story. They don't. They only know the version edited to keep them watching. And maybe that's the tragedy of it all, when your truth becomes someone else's episode. Still, something beautiful hides inside that chaos. These women, for all their pain, showed the kind of courage that's easy to overlook. They stood there broken, but still standing, proving that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the only thing that's ever made us human. And maybe that's why their stories hit so hard. Because somewhere deep down, everyone has lived a smaller version of their pain. So, as episode 18 fades out, the question isn't who was right or wrong. It's what this show has turned love into. A performance, a business, a mirror. And what happens when the mirror cracks. I'm Maya Rose, and you're watching Star Scoop US, where we pull back the curtain on the stories you think you know and show you what they cost in real life. Tell me in the comments, if you had 15 days to save your life as the world watched, would you still believe in love? Because when the truth finally hits TLC screens, someone else's story is already breaking.